Welcome to Nice from Education, the largest producer of maps and globes in the United States. Exploring Where and Why is a cross-curricular program that includes a literacy library. This session has been specifically designed for the library and specifically for 5th grade. We're delighted that you are participating and look forward to receiving your assignment and getting your feedback. In our country's history, there are 12 books in your literacy library, both fiction and nonfiction. Just as you learned in one of our earlier sessions, the best place to start is the teacher's guide. Your literacy library contains 12 books, fiction and nonfiction, and a host of lesson plans. The table of contents is where you'll find a list of the books contained in your set. You can also find recommendations as to which books are best used with which activity. For instance, you will notice that the book Coolies is recommended in 2 different places. You have the flexibility of choosing the one that best fits your schedule and the needs of your students. This also helps if you're sharing resources. This is just one way that you and your colleagues can utilize the resources without crowding one another's space. For each book in the collection, you have a variety of lessons through which you might select to utilize the book. Here you can see you have reading, which offers you a choice with fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, writing, social studies, math, science, and critical thinking. Okay, so today we're picking up with our book, The Coolies, and we're going to just pick up where we left off yesterday. So now we're in the labor camp. We're going to be looking at that. Chinese laborers have been hired by the Central Pacific Railroad Company to build railroad tracks headed east. Irish railroad workers had been hired by the Union Pacific Railroad Company, and they started from Omaha, Nebraska, and headed west. And here's a picture of the Chinese workers out on the railroad working. For Coolies, I've opted for 2 lessons. The first is a comprehension lesson, and the second one is a geography lesson. Okay, so I want you to write, who did you care for and what did you do for them? Maybe somebody had a broke foot and maybe you helped them get to class. Maybe it was a friend of yours. Have you ever had a friend break their leg at school and they have a hard time getting to their next class, and so you help them or something maybe? Or maybe you help someone who can't do something for themselves. Okay, I want you to write about that for me. Our next activity, we just finished our book, The Coolies. Wasn't that a good book? Raise your hand if you thought it was a good book. So we're going to use your activity map today, and I want you to fold it like I've got it so that we're looking at the western part of the United States. So get your activity map. We're looking at the western part of the United States. We're going to find California. Where's Utah? Let's find it with our finger first. Where's Utah? Okay. Did you find Utah? Good. See if you can go on a little further east and find Nebraska. Okay, good. Yes, get up if you can't see the map. Move over to where you can see it with your partners. Okay, good. Now, I want you to draw a line from California through Utah over to Nebraska. Just draw a line. Next thing you're going to do is you drew your line. So you've got your line that goes like this. Okay, now we're going to make it look like a train track. Okay, now make it look like a train track. All right. The next book that I want to demonstrate for you is our book, George versus George. As you can see, it can be used in 3 different lessons, again providing the teacher with flexibility. Aaron is going to be demonstrating this one for you. Once you've decided to use the book, George versus George, look at the many different opportunities you have to do extended learning through cross-curricular. You have reading, which includes an opportunity for either vocabulary or comprehension, writing, social studies, where you can choose from civics, geography, or history, math, critical thinking, and art.
So this is a cool book. The American Revolution is seen from both sides. George versus George. Who are the 2 Georges?
George Washington. King George.
King George and George Washington. Did you ever think about that before, that they were both named George? And can anybody guess what's happening in this picture from what you see here? Dumping tea. Boston Tea Party. Okay, let's read about it. On the night of December 16, 1773, some Sons of Liberty covered their faces and hands with coal dust, disguised themselves as Mohawk Indians, and very calmly filed on board 3 ships filled with tea. Hundreds gathered to watch as the men split open 342 chests of British Darjeeling tea with tomahawks and fed all 45 tons of it to the fish. Most Britons were outraged when they heard the news of the wanton destruction. Americans were clearly a race of convicts, they said. They had gone too far and must be punished. 6 months later, the king and the angry parliament closed Boston Harbor. Nothing could come in and nothing could go out.
Let's take a look at the first activity that we used to extend our reading. We used the first writing activity. Good job, everybody. Okay, I'm going to hand out a note card to you now. And on the note card, we're going to write an invitation. We're going to ask people to join us for the Boston Tea Party. So I want you to do the who, what, where, when, and why on one side, okay? So take one and pass it. Okay, you guys go ahead and get started. And then once you finish the who, what, where, when, and why, on the next, flip it over, and you're going to draw a picture. For our second activity, we selected a geography lesson. Let's take a look. Here you can see that the kids are very fixed on the geography lesson using their raised relief map. Well, you've come to our fourth and final session of Exploring Where and Why 101. Please complete the assignment you see here, send it to me, and I'll be glad to give you some feedback and send you a certificate for 2 hours of CEUs. Just utilize one of the books from the Literacy Library, take some photos of your students completing an activity, and maybe some shots of the completed activities themselves, and send them over to me at pgothart@nystromeducation.com. It's been my pleasure to be your host and your narrator. I hope you enjoy using your Exploring Where and Why program.